Hey guys, AJ here, back in this. So today I'm gonna do something different. We're gonna have a little story time, and I just want to talk about kind of like three moments in my life that made me really get into the red pill, and I assume that anyone who's watching this, you have a good idea of what the red pill is, what the manosphere is. But everyone else, Google it, you'll figure it out. But as you can see from the graphic, I think that with modern men, especially men now, um, if you want to be traditional, if you want to be any type of male mindset now, all paths lead you to the red pill. Now, there's all types of ideas within the red pill. There's the black pill. There's the monk lifestyle. There's all this other stuff. But the general red pill is where most men who want to be successful and live a happy life in the Western world end up. So let's get into some story time. So I grew up on the West Coast, and regular suburban neighborhood in predominantly white area, and I am black, so I grew up, regular childhood. Mom and dad, they're both professionals, and went to elementary school, high school, etc. And I was what most people in the black manosphere they would call an educated lame. So I wasn't like super into sports and all that other stuff, but you know, I was in the marching band, and I grew up. I liked anime and comic books and all that stuff, and that might be cool now with a lot of kids, but back in the day, that anime and stuff wasn't popular. And if you were black and you liked comic books and stuff, that was weird. So, um, you know, I was always outgoing, but I didn't have quote unquote what they call swag now. But I did decent with chicks. You know what I'm saying? But my number one problem was I was a nice guy. I was what you might call a nice guy. So there was girls that I was interested in, and they would be dating all the doofuses in school, or all the jocks and all these guys who they had what it took to get chicks. So they would be dating all the football players who, had status and all this other stuff. And then I would be the guy that would be talking to them, oh, it'll be okay, blah, blah, blah. So this leads me to moment number one when I kind of got in my red pill space was it was right after graduation when I graduated from high school and I started college and my freshman year, I remember I went to this school and I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna own this place. And I wasn't even worried about girls, but I would walk around. It was my brother and I and my group of friends, and we were the biggest bunch of pricks, the biggest bunch of jerks, the biggest bunch of assholes that you'd ever meet. I remember just it was effortless. I would just get chicks, and it didn't even occur to me. We would go to parties. We would go to as we got older, I'd go to bars and raves and drink and do other things. And I realized that I wasn't even thinking, I wasn't even working to get girls. And I remember it was still my freshman year. And I realized that I had become the type of guy that the girls in high school would complain to me about unconsciously. It was weird. Now the transformation from simp to pimp, I guess, was unconscious, but it was the moment where I realized that there were girls that I had known or that I had been with or I had smashed, and I knew the simps that they were talking to about me because I was such an extroverted person that I had friends, and I would know a guy who'd be like, "Yeah, man, I'm friends with what's and such, and why did you do her like that?" And I'm like, "Who are you?" And it'd just be some simp that was simping for one of the chicks that I was smashing, and that made me really understand something's not right. Because I grew up in a really, really liberal area where it's like, oh, men are trash and the patriarchy and women are these, this whole feminist mindset, blah, blah. It was just everywhere. It's in my high school, it was in my college. So part of me actually did buy into that crap. You know what I'm saying? Like total blue pill beta male BS. But there was still something in my experience that kind of made me move from being a simp to being an asshole that got all the chicks, and then finally having that revelation my freshman year. So, moving on, moment number 2, I would say, is I remember my sophomore year, I took a gender roles class. Now, I know that this is 2022 and all schools offer gender roles, but I was in school back in 2002. So this was when this was brand new. And I remember it was an easy A. So that's what I had heard. So I took this class. There wasn't any homework. And this is in Washington State. So there was nothing but, there was some hot chicks in there, but there was a lot of purple haired, hairy armpit feminists in this class, right? So I just took the class for just an easy A. And I remember that the whole class, first of all, the teacher was a total beta male. He had a man bun like before man buns were a thing. And he was one of those slimy like male feminists that's like, yeah, man, guys are assholes, man, but I'm not like that. So he seemed like one of those dudes that didn't have any game or didn't have any like masculine frame, so he was trying to like sell out his gender so he can get girls. But anyways, so everything in this class was like, oh, men are trash, and I looked around and I'm like, something's wrong, and to bring up the race card a little bit, these feminists, especially white ones, they were leaning all into this feminist stuff, and some of the language that they were using, this misandrous language, was language that I had seen, old white people in the 50s and stuff use towards black men back in the day. So that kind of tweaked my ears a little bit. But hey, misandry is misandry. So I remember there was we were talking about they didn't call it toxic masculinity, but it was like, it was like tough guys. Like you have your tough guys, like you have a GUISE, so but like your guys. So it's basically saying be a tough guy is fake. And they were talking about First Blood and Rambo. And I don't know if anyone here has seen Rambo or not, but check out the first one, First Blood. And basically, the entire movie is about Rambo, and he's back from Nam, and he's this tortured soul, and, people, that sheriff won't leave him alone. At the end, it's one of the most powerful scenes. It's one of the best acting that Sylvester Stallone did, where he breaks down, and he's crying, and it's sad because he's a strong, masculine man, and he just kind of breaks down. And I remember that this teacher, quote unquote, brings this up, and the whole class is like shitting all over Rambo. And I said, wait a minute, I don't think you guys have ever seen Rambo. You have to. And I remember every single woman in this class tried to shout me down, and and it was me arguing against the whole class. And I said, you don't know what you're talking about. But that wasn't the actual moment. The actual moment was about a year later. This is about junior year. In this class, there was this guy named Shane, and I used to call him the uber male. He was a country boy. He was a 6'5", country boy, white boy, and he would go in there, and he was in this class, and he was a traditional conservative dude, and he used to argue with the whole class of these women, and he would say, look, I if I marry a woman, then I want her to be, basically barefoot and pregnant. And I would just laugh, but he'd stand his ground. You know what I'm saying? So I admired him for that. So I saw this Shane guy. I'm going to say junior year. It was about a year after the class. And I was like, hey, Shane, how you doing, man? What's up? I was like, you had a hard time in that gender roles class, right? And Shane goes, hell no, dude. I was smashing like 7 girls in that class. So the whole time, all these feminist chicks were talking all this mess. They were hitting him up after the bar, and he was smashing these chicks. Even though they were talking big shit, they were all up on his Johnson, So that was moment number 2. Moment number 3, I have to say, is when I first moved to DC. to the DMV where I live now. And in this area, you have a lot of professional women, and they all have their degrees and all this stuff. And I had one friend of mine who was about 35, and she was doing well, making good money, and she was miserable. And she had kind of explained to me her whole life story about how miserable she was. So I would say I was about 30, and this is what really like sealed the red pill deal for me. This woman was hitting her 30s and had everything that would make a man happy. Accomplishments, money, a house, all this other stuff. And she was basically saying that she just, if she could, she would get married, have kids, and stop working. And I was shocked. I couldn't believe it. But then, as I got more into my career, and my career started taking off, and I started going to happy hours and other things to network in my career, I noticed that a lot of that this was a pattern with women of this ilk, this age range, this education, this social economic status. Their lives read like a book. I went to school, I got in my career, I'm 35, I'm miserable, I wish I was a housewife. And that, it just, at one point it just clicked. I said, wait a minute, there's a pattern here. And now I know so many girls that I can ask them, kind of Kevin Samuels style, a series of questions and figure out that their life just reads like a book, and it's really, 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 really sad. Really, really sad. Everything that you hear in the red pill is not correct, but in general, how the red pill prepares men and lets men know about female nature, that the women, not to watch what women say, watch what they do. The strong and independent type, that whole thing is BS. Don't date single moms. All of that stuff. I've seen it happen throughout my adult life, and I can say that those 3 moments kind of locked me into the red pill and made me think and understand that what's going on in the red pill space, the manosphere space, is true. So I just wanted to have a quick story time with you guys. If anyone else has a story about how they got into the red pill and how it's benefited their life, I'm going to make a separate video about how the red pill's benefited my life. But if anyone has their own story about how they got into the red pill, leave a comment below, because I'm interested in how you guys got here too. And list the number 1, 2, 3 moments that made you realize that, hey, something's wrong, and what made you, what got you on the path to the red pill. So, all right, you guys, like, subscribe, and everyone stay safe. Have a good one.